So the Dallas Mavericks, toward the end of the stretch, fold and fall to the Boston Celtics in Game 2 of the NBA Finals, 98-105. And I, Big Casual, am here to tell you guys the 3 key points that I saw that the Dallas Mavericks could have utilized to avoid a loss in Game 2. By the way, make sure to like and subscribe. So the first point that I want to make is turnovers. Within the first half, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving managed to turn over the ball 4 times, but those weren't even the most egregious turnovers. The team as a whole in the first half managed to turn over the ball 8 times in the first half, and the half portion that wasn't Luka and Kyrie were the most egregious. One of the plays that I could specifically remember in the first half was a missed free throw from Daigneault that resulted in an offensive rebound from PJ Washington. But PJ Washington, thinking that he's something that he isn't, which we're going to get into later in the video, tries to pull out the ball and gets the ball stripped from Derrick White. And that's going to be a constant theme that's with the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of players during this postseason have sort of made a name for themselves or sort of created minutes for themselves off of creating opportunities based on the advantages that Luka and Kyrie have, to the point that they feel like they can do things that they simply are not qualified to do. And speaking of missed free throws, this is a team that shot 66.7% from the free throw line tonight, and that is unacceptable. Especially when you're considering the fact that you got to the line 4 more times than your opponent, and your opponent was able to convert more free throws on less attempts. But that's sort of been the thing with the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks get to the free throw line at an elite rate, but they don't convert those free throws on a consistent basis. They have outlier games during the postseason that you could refer to that could leave you reason to feel optimistic. But for the most part, the Dallas Mavericks typically are not the best free throw shooting team that you could depend on. Sidebar, while the Dallas Mavericks were also being far more aggressive this game on the scoring front, I'm speaking to Kyrie Irving specifically, and also taking on more of a emphasis as a ball handler and creating opportunities for players like Daniel Gafford, for Derek Lively, for players like Derrick Jones Jr. It also shouldn't go unnoticed the fact that they were not knocking down the three-point shot at nearly an elite rate. Actually, it was a horrendous night from the three-point line for them. Shooting 23% from 3 on 26 attempts, the attempt to percentage ratio just, it does not match the profile of the Dallas Mavericks. And I think that should be attributed to the Boston Celtics. The Dallas Mavericks are an elite offensive unit, but their offense is basically predicated around 2 primary ball handlers that create opportunities on a far more consistent basis than usual for their teammates. So I'm talking Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, and those players in their best form makes this Dallas Mavericks team very, very elite. But if you put the right pressure, the right versatility, the right amount of discipline on those 2 people, you can create havoc that could be able to neutralize players like Derrick Jones Jr., players like Jaden Hardy, players like Derek Lively, players like Daniel Gafford. The names go on and on. Basically, the entire roster of the Dallas Mavericks can be very predicated at times on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, actually very consistently. And that leads me to the next point, turnovers. And in the Dallas Mavericks situation, it's not necessarily the fact that they turned over the ball 15 times. It's how they turned the ball over and the timing in which they turned the ball over. And it's not just the number itself and turning over as well. Like the Boston Celtics were able to maybe not force the Dallas Mavericks to turn the ball over, but they forced them to take shots that they didn't necessarily want to under duress. I'm looking specifically at the Dallas Mavericks' second to last possession of the game, where PJ Washington is going to the rim. Kyrie Irving passes him the ball. Jaylen Brown and Derrick White have him sandwiched. If he tries anything else, they essentially get the upper hand, and they probably force the turnover. And so PJ Washington having no choice but to go up with the dunk. And granted, I think it was a foul. You still, if you're the Boston Celtics, you want him to try to go up on 2 of your best defenders. And that's also a key factor for this series going forward. And you saw it in game 1, and you even saw it even more in crunch time in this game too. The Boston Celtics are forcing the Dallas Mavericks to do things that they do not want to do. They're executing defensive rotations. They're getting back on a consistent basis. One of the main things I said on the Hoopsers podcast, make sure to check us out, is that one of the key factors for the Dallas Mavericks to be able to succeed in this series is they have to get the fast break going. That was one of the main reasons that they were able to come out of the Timberwolves series relatively unscathed. That was one of the main reasons why they were able to get past the Oklahoma City Thunder towards the end of the stretch. But they're going up against a Boston Celtics unit that they're one of the best fast break defenses in the entire league, especially during the postseason. Now, you can argue that the Boston Celtics being one of the best fast break defenses because the talent that they went up against in the Eastern Conference, especially being injured for the entire postseason for them, they haven't really gone up against the contention that the Dallas Mavericks have on the Western Conference. But I would say that if you look at this NBA Finals, it's basically doing the same thing that they were doing on the Eastern Conference. With Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown being fully ready and prepared to be able to contend and defend Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic whenever they're in space and they get switched onto them, to Derrick White and Jrue Holiday putting pressure really from half court onward and at times full court to force them to make decisions that they otherwise would not have against any other unit, matching their physicality, having a rim protector at the size of Kristaps Porzingis that's also being disciplined for the most part, and Al Horford being the vet that we all knew that he was, but he's really shining in this postseason run. The Boston Celtics are just literally designed to take advantage of every single mistake and miscue that the Dallas Mavericks are having. Which leads me to PJ Doncic or PJ Washington. Listen, man, I appreciate PJ Washington for what he's doing for the Dallas Mavericks, and especially with the rebounding and his timely shots and his timely aggressiveness that comes off guard at times for the Dallas Mavericks. Is almost like a secret weapon that he's become. But if I'm Jason Kidd, I have to go to PJ Washington and tell that man he has to slow down. He has to take his time and actually remember who he is on this unit at its core. At his core, PJ Washington he's a main beneficiary of a Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving creation. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving create opportunities for PJ Washington to attack closeouts, for him to capitalize and knock down open shots, and even at times get lobs and be able to sort of get clean looks around the rim, mainly due to the gravity that they're forcing to themselves. The problem is when you get enough of those clean looks and you get enough of those shots, especially if you're not aware of the moment or aware of the team that you're on and how it's actually functioning, you can trick yourself into thinking that you're far more important than you actually are. And PJ Washington is falling for that trick like nobody's business right now. I'm seeing certain shots he's willing to take that he should not be taking unless it's created from Luka, Kyrie primarily. I'm seeing him take the ball half court with Jrue Holiday guarding him full court, and he's having no problem pushing it to half court before finally realizing, wait, I'm not that good, and looking for Luka to bail him out rather immediately. I'm seeing him going to the rim with reckless abandonment, trying to force fouls that, really, to tell you the truth, albeit I give him credit for being aggressive, if you're not getting a clean closeout to try to attack the rim, you trying to take a player on ball with you dribbling is just not the move. When you could just give the ball to Luka Doncic, you can give it to Kyrie, allow them to create that opportunity for you, and then see what you can be able to convert from there. The Dallas Mavericks are in an interesting situation. They have not played their best basketball or their best brand of basketball yet, but an argument can be made that the Boston Celtics haven't either. And their system is far less reliant on Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum's creation, as we've seen, as it's more of a team, more of a unit. You've seen Kristaps Porzingis get to take off in the first. You got to see Jrue Holiday and Derrick White take off mainly in the second. And Jaylen Brown has been the most consistent player, and he's not even the best player. Jayson Tatum has not even got his chance to really unleash his best form in this series, in large part due to just shots just not knocking down for him. But that's the thing. When you have a team that's actually constructed for the talent to really shine in their own matter, and they have strengths that can be able to mask the other stars' weaknesses, you can sort of afford for that star to sort of struggle because you have the other responsibilities already dealt to one or two extra players, to where it's not going to hurt you that much if he's having an off night. Whereas when you look at the Dallas Mavericks, if Luka does not create on a nearly enough basis, nothing's happening on the offense. We saw in game 1, they sort of shut down the passing lanes for him to be able to create for others. And so he sort of had to go into ISO mode. And that's exactly what the Boston Celtics want. I had the Boston Celtics winning this in 5 or 6, but to be honest with you, it could end up being a sweep because I don't really see where the Dallas Mavericks can be able to fix the mistakes that they've made thus far. If I'm Jason Kidd, I'm coming to PJ Washington. I'm telling him he needs to slow down and remember who the main ball handlers of this unit is. Allow them to be able to create the opportunities, and his responsibilities will be to only attack the glass on missed shots or attack closeouts on the perimeter. That's strictly his responsibility. I would also aim for the Dallas Mavericks as a unit to attempt more threes. I think that in this situation that they're in, the best opportunity for the Dallas Mavericks to come back in this series is they have to shoot the long ball at like a semi-average clip, but they need to put up more threes for the averages to start to balance out. Because as it stands right now, the Celtics are forcing them to mainly take twos while they're allowed to take a lot of threes. In game 2, the Boston Celtics nearly doubled the amount of threes that the Dallas Mavericks took, 26-39. And more importantly, the Boston Celtics 3-point shots seem to be far more cleaner looks. And if they're missing, it's mainly because they're actually missing, not because the Dallas Mavericks are doing anything to truly stop them or make it more difficult on them. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Is it Mavs in 6 or is it Boston in 5? The Hoops's podcast happens every single Sunday. We're also on Twitter Spaces, on Instagram. Please make sure to check us out. And with that being said, I'll check with you later. Peace.